we learn what awaits us on this expedition, set up a proper expedition camp, and somehow end up going on a rescue mission to save our horse. Thanks, Gaston. So welcome back to the dig site, where in the previous episode we got into the create storage mod, which, by the way, I went ahead and started adding some filters, so it looks a lot better. I still have a few to do, but not the end of the world. And then also we went ahead and added those 3 windmills as well, and I think they still look the best. It's still one of my favorite windmills I've ever done, but that's not the only thing. We've currently only tapped into this windmill over here. This is the single windmill that we're currently using to power the entire storage system and everything that's hidden underneath. So we do still have 2 additional windmills that we can use for any future builds, and those are builds that might happen in this area and also in other areas around the dig site. But in today's episode, I need to set up a proper place for us to sleep and do some of our basic crafting and workshoppy things. And what better place for an archaeologist to do these type of things than in their own tent? So I will be looking at clearing out this area and turning this into the perfect place for our little expedition tent. And then maybe once we have our little tent in, we will be able to venture out on our very first expedition. But before we can even start building a tent, we need to do some preparation in regards to the camping site, which means we're going to have to cut down a bunch of trees in this area, as well as flattening out the terrain and getting a bit more terraforming done, just so it looks a little bit better and, well, I guess makes the whole building experience just a tad easier for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rip out all these trees. I'm going to flatten this area, get the cliffs built in, texturize the floor, and then maybe we can even do this side as well and get that ready for any future builds. So let's roll a real quick landscaping montage, I guess. Yeah, let's go. Well, that took a little bit longer than planned, but I do think it turned out perfect. So let's just see. First things first, I added this little structure over here. So basically we've got multiple ways of getting into this digging site. And over here we've got like a little lookout point, which feels fitting, seeing to we're going to do the tent, I guess, in this area. So if you head on through, we've got a little ledge to climb down, and we've got a really big space for a tent. And I'm thinking it might more be in this general area, and then over here we can have an area to maybe prep food or something, like a little campsite. So we've got tent and campsite, and then we'll do some texturing. We'll add some more bushes and some trees and stuff like that. But then also if we just run on over to this side, I went ahead and I just did the same. So I texturized this little cliff face over here, and I just brought out this area, and I made sure to make it almost start here where it's level with the terrain, because I'm not really sure what's going to happen with the rail. I don't know. I'm not a rail person, so I don't want to build it too close and then it's in the way of a bridge. So I did bring it out a bit further away, and then the idea for this area is maybe farms, certain crops and stuff like that. But then you'll also notice that there's absolutely no texturing done of the coarse dirt yet. The reason for that being, well, there's 2 reasons. Number one, all of that turned to grass, so I put down coarse dirt. That way it will eliminate the normal grass, and we can place normal dirt as well as a textured block, and it should not spread. And it will be this texture improved. And what I mean by improved is this. It's just the addition of brown wool and brown concrete that just adds those 2 blocks that you need to enhance the texture. So I'm going to take a page from Azu's book and I'm just going to add those 2 blocks to the mix, and then also maybe a few stone buttons because they do look like pebbles. But that's basically it. I just feel like those 2 additional colors just make it look so much better. But before we even able to start texturizing this little camping site, we need to, I guess, put up the tent. And before we can do that, we're going to have to gather resources. So we need to gather up some spruce for the structures, and we all know how long spruce can take to grow. So I'm going to plant these, and while we wait for them to grow, I do think we should go on a little bit of an expedition, because you see, I found out our missing horse is not a victim of the donkey thief. No, instead, he decided to be Indiana Jones himself and go on his own little expedition. Thus, it's our job to retrieve him and bring him back home so he can spend the rest of his life with the other horses that we found in the desert. Okay, to rescue our horse, we're going to need a few things. So let's quickly make sure we have everything in here. We're going to need a lead. Let's maybe take 2. Do we have a boat in here? A boat? We don't, but let's send for those 2. Do I have a boat? I do have a boat in here. So we have leads, we have boats, and this should be all we're going to need to attempt this rescue mission. And how are we going to do it? Well, we're taking Gaston, of course. So I'm going to grab him and we're going to go in that direction. How do I know that direction? Well, let's just say a certain Mr. Beardstone saw said horse on said mountain. Do 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 do. Na da 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 do 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 do. Hello, Mr. Horse. And as you guys can see, we found him. He's right over there. So now, how do I do this? Let's do this maybe. So we leash on to Gaston. Come, Mr. Squiggle Pants. Come this way. And then you come this way. And do we have him? We do. Okay. Onwards. Now we just need to gently set him down. Okay. We've got 1 down. Are we going to do this? Okay, we're going to shear this one. Oh, no. Did I just take my saddle off? Okay, cool. There we go. We've got horse number 3 safely home with his parents. And we have to say, we couldn't have done it without Gaston. So, yeah. So if you enjoyed that little horse rescue mission, then smash that like button to show your appreciation for Gaston. And then let's get back to it. So that was not the longest of expeditions, but as you can see, we've got trees. So we can finally start by gathering all the resources we're going to require to set up our little tent in this area. So let's just do that. Let's quickly gather up a bunch of resources. We're going to need some spruce. Then we're going to need some diorite, so into our little storage area. And some of this we're going to cook up using the smelting system. That should change the blocks into a new block, which is known as dolomite. Then we need to take the dolomite and turn 1 stack into cut dolomite slabs, and the other stack into cut dolomite stairs. And then we're going to do the same with diorite. We're going to get ourselves diorite slabs, diorite stairs, cut diorite stairs, cut diorite slabs, and just normal cut diorite before we venture deep into the mine to get some calcite. Yes, I remember seeing some in one of these tunnels, so we can just grab a bunch of this, then some stripped dark oak, which will bring us to the end of our very extensive list of resources we need to gather. So with everything on the list gathered, I think it's time for us to do a little build montage and get this tent into place. So sit back, relax as we build our little archaeology tent. Well, we've done it. We've got a tent where we can plan all our exhibitions in the future. And if we run in here, I went ahead, added some trees. Haven't built trees in a while, so these are my first attempt at creating some custom schematics. So we've got 2 over here, 1 on the edge over there, and then a fourth one on this side, which is perfect. And just to give you a little rundown of the tent, I am eventually going to put down a cart assembler underneath it, maybe right over here, and this whole thing can turn into a modular workshop slash starter, whatever area. So whenever we go on expeditions, I can just take all of this along to wherever we go. But the general idea is to maybe have my bedroom in here so it's safe enough to sleep in. So we will decorate this with maybe some barrels and stuff like that just to keep mobs out. And then we can do maybe some basic crafting areas, maybe some contraptions. Not really sure, but for now, I just felt like we do need a tent. Every archaeologist needs a tent where he works from, planning his next great adventure. But the next thing we need to do is the floors. Floors are still pretty dull. We still only have them as the coarse dirt. So we need to go ahead and add a bunch of different blocks. So the general idea would be to maybe rip out some of this. So let's just rip some of this. I want us to go really deep so you can actually not see the normal coarse dirt underneath. Whoops, something happened over there. Let's just grab that. And let's grab all of these. And then maybe we can plan something like this. Oh, I love Swift Sneak so much. But then the general idea, we will take our normal, let's say, concrete, and we'll start that a little bit darker, and then we can work into maybe the woolly blocks over here, and then we can fade that into our concrete powder like this, and then we can also bring it out naturally a little bit further every now and then and just have things like this. Yeah, that looks kind of sick. Now the thing is, I just need to do this all over this entire area and get the floor texturized, and then we can start looking at adding some bushes and details like that to the area. So yeah, texturing for me. Okay, so we've got the darker parts in, and I do think I like it. I think it looks kind of cool. You walk down, you have your light, darker little areas, so maybe under the trees a bit, and for sure underneath the building. Oh, that's a little plank. And then it just wraps around on this side as well. Comes out a little bit less on this side. Well, I can't come out more on this side, but this area needs to be dark in general because it's a shady area. So I do like that. I do think we can add some more under this tree. But the next thing I wanted to discuss is the area in the center. And for that we're going to go a little bit lighter. So I almost want to say this needs to be our pathway. So let's do something like this. And then let's take it down the center over here. Because right over here, I want to maybe add some form of campsite or like a fire pit or something. So let's do something like that. And then this we'll do with a bunch of lighter blocks. I almost want to say more compact blocks because we walk on them a lot. So let's say something like that. And then we need to be careful with these, but just add some mushroom blocks. And the reason why I say careful, because if we do place them, they're a bit harder to mine because we don't have silk touch on our axe. And then maybe we can even add something like that. Yeah, I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. I do think some of these edges are a bit too tough. And then I do think it's a little bit too much. We need to break it up maybe. Add a bit of other blocks in between. Yeah, I don't hate it. Oh, we lost that one. Okay, well, let me do all the lighter parts and then we'll take it from there. Okay, so I finished some of the texturing and I went ahead and added a bunch of different plant types and a little bit of decor in the area, and I do think that it brought everything together. It looks livable almost. I then also went ahead, added a little camping site with a campfire, some sleeping bags, and made it look a little bit more like a resting area. So I've been sitting here reading through all the books found in the ancient burial site, and it's a lot. It speaks of ancient civilizations, powering this city with the Create mod, and lost cities. But before we can set out on any great expeditions, we've got a lot of things to do. We're going to have to sort out temporary blocks for if we need to scaffold. We're going to have to sort out better armor, better than diamond at least, and also food, because I'm still eating bread and I do think it's time for a proper upgrade. So we've got quite a list of things that we need to tackle if we want to progress. So with all that knowledge of ancient cities and create powered civilizations, it's time for me to say goodbye. I ran out of time, but I do think the little additions we've added to this area just gets us into gear for the very first expedition. So down in the comments, let me know what you think of the tent, and then I'll see you all in the next episode. Bye for now.